Baba, you can start the My Wish, Ashok.
Yeah. Just one. Give me a. I'm just starting.
Sure.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. My wish. My lover has to keep the wish of the beloved. My wish for my lovers is as follows. 1. Do not shirk your responsibilities. 2. Attend faithfully to your worldly duties, but always keep at the back of your mind that all this is Baba's. 3. When you feel happy, think Baba wants me to be happy. When you suffer, think Baba wants me to suffer. 4. Be resigned to every situation and think honestly and sincerely. Baba has placed me in this situation. 5. With the understanding that Baba is in everyone, try to help and serve others. 6. I say with my divine authority to each and all that whosoever takes my name at the time of breathing his last comes to me, so do not forget to remember me in your last moments. Unless you start remembering me from now on, it will be difficult to remember me when your end approaches. You should start practicing from now on. Even if you take my name only once every day, you will not forget to remember me in your dying moments. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. So, yesterday's reading stopped at page 98. So you went from second plane to the fifth plane, both inclusive. Sixth plane, both inclusive.
Correct.
So can you just quickly tell us a high-level summary, anything interesting, anything that you found that you want to share, and then we can take up from seventh.
Definitely, it's written very nicely, very simple in simple terms. But I found a correlation between this and what is written in chapter 1 about the different worlds, different spheres, and the different planes. So I think if anyone reads or wants to understand the journey of involution from plane 1, which we had finished earlier, and from plane 2 to plane 6, it's all there. But the essence is that you always require the master's grace, his perfect master's grace, because you can get enraptured in any of the planes because of the different experiences and the different enticements which you have. So you have to just be focused on your journey, and you have to have your human body. Even if you become an angel, you have to again get into a human body to do the journey. That's all I can remember, and that's what I think is of significance in our journey. Jai Baba.
Awesome. Thanks for that. That's a good summary. I mean, that's a good synopsis of what happened, and I think we'll continue from there. Anything else that you wish to share? We can discuss. Otherwise, we'll continue.
No, I think that's all. Sanjay, Nigam, if he wants to say something, or anybody else.
He's not there. He's not there now. So we'll get started. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. The seventh plane, the seventh heaven. Between the sixth and the seventh planes lies a deep, bottomless ditch, an abyss of immeasurable depth, a chasm of immeasurable breadth, which no pilgrim can cross by his own efforts. The sixth plane pilgrim absolutely requires divine help, the grace of a perfect master who is already God realized to enter the seventh plane of reality. That grace is the divine help to become infinite oneself. That help comes from one who is infinite, infinite in knowledge, infinite in intelligence. When such divine grace descends, the pilgrim leaves the sixth plane of illumination and enters the seventh plane of knowledge, Vigyan Bhumika. In the seventh plane, the seventh heaven and the seventh depth are one and the same. This plane is the only plane of reality, the plane of God realization. Sat Chit Ananda. Knowledge, infinite. Power, infinite. And bliss, infinite. This is the eternal existence of Shiva, of the realized soul, the Shiv Atma. When the Sadguru uses this infinite knowledge, it is in the form of infinite intelligence. After the grace of the Sadguru descends, the pilgrim passes through two states of infinity, Nirvana and Nirvikalpa, passing away and passing beyond. The first divine state, Nirvana, is of infinite vacuum, the real nothing, which can never be understood or imagined. In this divine state of Nirvana or Fana of the Sufis, the limited individual mind of the sixth plane pilgrim is completely annihilated, totally merged in infinity, and only consciousness of the vacuum seems to exist. In Nirvana, there seems to be no God. God appears not to exist because Nirvana is the state of the real infinite nothing. Lord Gautama, the Buddha, had shown centuries ago that Nirvana is the goal of life. Since this seems to be the state of no God, only consciousness, Buddha's followers took his teachings to mean that there is no God. But that is not so, because God is and he cannot not exist. No one ever remains in the state of nirvana in divine vacuum because immediately following nirvana, the soul experiences itself in the state of nirvikalpa. In nirvikalpa or fanafila of the Sufism, the soul eternally experiences the I am God state. The nirvikalpa state is so instantaneously gained after the experience of nirvana that it would seem that both are the same. But in fact, they are the opposites. Nirvana and nirvikalpa, fana and fanafila, though both divine states of consciousness, are opposites. In nirvana, the state of the consciousness is I am nothing. I am infinite nothingness. But this is real. In Nirvikalpa, the state of the consciousness is I am everything. I am infinite everything. And this is reality with a big R. In the state of Nirvana, the limited I is annihilated and the real infinite nothing is experienced. The consciousness of the soul experiences the ocean of nothing and drowns. In the state of Nirvikalpa, the ultimate in the state of Nirvikalpa, the unlimited real I, the divine ego, asserts I am God, and the real infinite everything is experienced. The consciousness of the soul becomes infinite and experiences the ocean of everything and drowns. Thus, in order to experience infinite everything, infinite nothing must be experienced as to experience infinite consciousness. Infinite unconsciousness must be experienced. I'll repeat this line. Thus, in order to experience infinite everything, infinite nothing must be experienced. As to experience infinite consciousness, infinite unconsciousness must be experienced. Nirvana is the experience of conscious, infinite unconsciousness. And Nirvikalpa is the experience of conscious, infinite consciousness. The pilgrim, the drop soul, now oceanized, remains in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, experiencing himself as God and only God. His divine state is only God is. Only God is everything. The pilgrim has drowned in God and is fully conscious that he himself is God, that he is all knowledge, all power, and all bliss. In Vedant, such a one is called the Brahmi Bhut, and in Sufism, the Majzub. He is in eternal splendor, enjoying infinite eternal bliss, Brahmananda. A man who becomes God consciously experiences that nothing exists except him. Aside from him, nothing is. This is the experience of God, of the I am God state. I alone exist. The seventh heaven is Ars e Maula, the seat of God or the throne of God. It is the same seat that was occupied by the first soul who established the eternal aspect of personal God. There is no seventh heaven in the seventh plane in terms of reality unity, but in terms of illusion duality, there are the aspects of impersonal and personal God. In the beginning of time, infinite consciousness itself was established as the divine state or seat of impersonal God who had no consciousness of illusion. This seat of God is Ars e Maula, the seventh heaven. Only one who has lost consciousness of illusion gains it and can sit in that formless throne. There is a photograph, sure, better. There it is. It's a photograph of the silver throne of Sadguru Narayan Maharaj, depicting the throne of God, Ars e Maula. In the beginning of time, this throne remained to be filled until infinite consciousness was gained through the medium of infinite unconsciousness. The first to occupy that throne, who eternally remains enthroned, is none else but the nameless ancient one who gained infinite consciousness by himself. By occupying that vacant seat filled by infinite unconsciousness, at the instant he realized infinite consciousness, he established the eternal aspect of personal God when his infinite consciousness filled the vacuum of impersonal God's infinite unconsciousness. Ars e Maula represents the vacuum that was filled by the first soul when he realized God and when he realized himself to be infinite consciousness. At realization, infinite consciousness consumes infinite unconsciousness. Because the experience is instantaneous, nirvana, nirvikalpa, the seventh heaven, and the seventh plane are one and the same. Once the soul enters the seventh heaven in nirvana, it enters eternity and undergoes transfiguration in infinity and rises out of the ocean of everything in nirvikalpa as the infinite consciousness, the everything. He who uses infinite knowledge establishes himself as personal God, Sadguru, or Kutub. and works through the medium of infinite intelligence. The first to use his infinite knowledge and thereby establish himself as personal God is the nameless ancient one, the eternal being in creation. As the divine knowledge in the seventh heaven and the seventh plane are the same, the difference lies in who uses the knowledge of the plane. When the knowledge of the seventh plane is used by the avatar or Sadguru, it is personified in the form of infinite intelligence, as that knowledge is used to take others to the seventh plane. I'll pause here. I think this is a very remarkable chapter. I hope you realize what is different from all the things, or what is new in all the things that we have read till now, or at least I have read till now. I think the concept of the Arse Maula and the fact that the new term that is being used, which is personal God, is very interesting, right? So it's the first use of the term. I mean, we have heard personal representation or form, God with a form, but then here it is beautifully drawn out specifically as to how even the seat of God, the seventh heaven, had no personal God till it was the first soul's journey, which we learned in beings, went to the seventh plane, and then that seat was occupied, and that seat was occupied permanently by that personal God. So this is a very interesting insight and input that we are receiving in this chapter. I hope others can comment, and if there's anything they want to add, we can talk about it. Okay.
Karthik, yes, it is very profound and significant, and it tells us about the journey from infinite unconsciousness to infinite consciousness of the first God realized soul. So it's the if
Absolutely.
I if I can use the word, the genesis of creation. I don't know. Is that
Uh, no, I don't think this is let us not confuse that with this, right?
okay?
The genesis of creation is more on the lines of the home point and uh, how the journey of the soul starts with the individualization to the form to the improvement in the quality of consciousness and so on. I think that is a more specific
Okay.
description of genesis.
Okay.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Okay. Fair
This is
point.
this is more on just the entry into the seventh plane. But in this chapter, what we understood is in the seventh plane, the first person who entered and occupied the seat of Arse Maula is also the first and only personal God. And the personal God didn't exist till this journey from, as you said, Genesis to first realization happened. So till Baba occupied Arse Maula, even Arse Maula was unconscious. There was no form. I mean, not unconscious, there was no form.
Achha, so it's basically from formless to form. Yeah. Okay.
The formless to form change happened with the first soul going through the entire journey. And once it is reached, the form based personal God continues in that seat into infinity. And as we have learned earlier as well, it is that same soul that comes again and again.
Correct.
But this distinction of occupation of Arse Maula and the fact that before the occupation of that throne, there was nothing are the two takeaways for me in this lesson.
Fair point. Jay Baba. That's all.
Okay, so then if there's nothing else, we can continue to the next one, which is Majzub or Brahmi Bhut. God consciousness is the same for every soul, but the use of the knowledge of the seventh plane is different among the realized souls. The human being conscious of himself as only God and who has no direct function in the world is called by Sufis as Majzub and in Vedanta Brahmibhut. That individual has realized God and still remains his human form and lives on earth as the divine ghost. Brahmi is the God and the Bhut is ghost. He is God himself, but does not function as God on earth. The Majzub or Brahmibhut is conscious only of being God. He is the drop that became the ocean, it's God, but drowned in that ocean of divinity and is no longer conscious of his dropness. I alone exist. I am he. I am ocean. He is only conscious of the I am God state and unconscious of the three worlds in creation. He is a perfect one who has never ending infinite consciousness and is always divinely conscious. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Enjoying all knowledge, all power, and all bliss. But such a one has no human consciousness. He does not utilize his divinity, the divine attributes contained within him, to help souls bound in illusion directly. It should be understood that the Majzub has no sanskaras and therefore no sanskaric connection with any souls who have bindings, gross, subtle, or mental impressions. He has no consciousness of creation, limitation, because creation consciousness involves sanskaras and he has none. Every human being who becomes God realized passes through the state of Majzubiyat, drowning in God, wherein all sanskaras are wiped out of the mind, severing connection with everyone and everything. The only soul who instantaneously passed through Majzubiyat to Kutubiyat, perfect masterhood, was the first drop. That mischievous chicken, who, when he became the ocean, swallowed it and thus forever became the ocean. Okay, that's Mansubiyat. So I have 2 points to make here. I think in all our learnings, what we've learned, and probably we are missing in our group as well, is a Christian, a person from the Christian faith. So that if you look at even the comparative summaries that Baba has done, I think the most frequent comparison is between Vedanta and Sufism. And the only references to biblical literature are few and far. Why I'm reminded of that is there is the concept of the Holy Ghost. Now, I do not know if, at least in initial intent or pre biblical reference to, of course, Baba has said the Bible has hid or misrepresented many things as away from what the original word of him was, right? I mean, his original word has been changed in the Bible, is what he has said multiple times. But I'm saying the concept of the Holy Ghost, which I've heard in Christianity, is that something that was originally the Brahmibhut or the Majzub that we're talking about? Just a matter of conjecture, nothing important. Just made that point. The second point is more, which is about, I think there is lesser reference to Christianity, and it would be nice to see how God speaks relates to the Bible and Christian faith itself. Of course, we have a lot of original Christians, born Christians who are into the Baba faith. We have people who are also masters in Baba literature as well, post being born as a Christian. So I think just that thought came to my mind. I just said it. The other thing is, now the only confusion I had in this chapter is if you look at this line. So I think every human being who becomes God realized passed through the state, but then I think a few retain that state and then they are majzoobs or Brahmi boots. Others just pass on to their, the next state, and hence that majzoobiyat is just a flash. Is that a fair understanding?
Uh, Karthik, if I may, yeah, what you rightly said, this is very, very, profound. But I think we can just relate it to the two stages of nirvana and nirvikalpa samadhi. Because some people stop at nirvana and some people go beyond to nirvikalpa samadhi. Is that what you're trying to refer? Or is
No,
that?
no, no, no. I have highlighted a particular para.
Yes, yes.
Every human being who becomes God realized passes through the state of manjubiyat, drowning in God, wherein all sanskaras are wiped out of the mind. Now, when sanskaras are wiped out of the mind, you're already in nirvana. Okay, that's
Yes.
also an attribute of nirvana state. Severing connection with everyone and everything. So here, severing connection with everyone and everything is the absence of creation consciousness. Is that a fair way to understand? When you are not able to relate to the rest of creation, then you're severing all the connections, right?
Correct.
Maybe that is briefly existing for everybody, but some people sustain it. Those that sustain are the Brahmi Bhuts and the Majzoobs that we hear of. But then every soul actually goes through this one flick or one instant of becoming a Majzoob briefly or instantaneously, for an instant, not instantaneous. Is
That
that a right way to
that,
understand?
that is a fair understanding. Can I request if you can read the last page again? Because I think
Sure, I can do that.
it's very relevant and
Oh, there's only one page for this. Okay. Yeah, God consciousness is the same for every soul, but the use of the knowledge of the seventh plane is different among the realized souls. The human being conscious of himself as only God and who has no direct function in the world is called by the Sufis Matsub and in Vedant Brahmi Bhut. That individual has realized God and still retains his human form and lives on earth as the divine ghost. Brahmi is God and Bhut is ghost. He is God himself but does not function as God on earth. The Majzub or Brahmi Bhut is conscious only of being God. He is the drop that became the ocean, God, but drowned in that ocean of divinity and is no longer conscious of his dropness. I alone exist. I am He. I am ocean. He is only conscious of the I am God state and unconscious of the three worlds in creation. He is a perfect one who has never ending infinite consciousness and is always divinely conscious. Sat Chit Ananda, enjoying all knowledge, all power, and all bliss. But such a one has no human consciousness. He does not utilize his divinity, the divine attributes contained within him to help souls bound in illusion directly. It should be understood that the Majzub has no sanskaras and therefore no sanskaric connection with any souls who have bindings, gross, subtle, or mental impressions. He has no consciousness of creation, limitation, because creation consciousness involves sanskaras and he has none. Every human being who becomes God realized passes through this state of Majzubiyat, drowning in God, wherein all sanskaras are wiped out of the mind, severing connection with everyone and everything. The only soul who instantaneously passed through Majzubiyat to Kutubiyat was the first drop. Kutubiyat is called perfect masterhood. That mischievous chicken who, when he became the ocean, swallowed it and thus forever became the ocean. Better understanding? More
Yes,
confusion.
yes, better understanding. And here they're referring to the first drop soul as to the avatar.
Yeah, that's fine. So ignore the last paragraph. The last paragraph is nothing about, I mean, it's just, uh, so everybody, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is everybody goes through Manzubiyat. Now, the confusion is created in this para, right? Uh, yeah, so see here. He is God himself, but does not function as God on earth. Majuba Brahmibhut is conscious only of being God. He is the drop that became the ocean. So this suggests that that type of drop soul has a sustained life. That is, he's living for more than a few seconds, or he's around for longer, right? However, if that is true, then how is this possible? Where he's saying everybody goes through Manzubiyat. So I don't think this is right by our understanding through God speaks, that everybody goes through Manzubiyat. If that is true, then it's an instantaneous experience of Manzubiyat, then translating to one of the other forms based on your sanskaric journey. Is that right?
And everybody's experience is different as per his sanskaric.
Correct. But here he says everyone goes through Manzubiyat, which we have not heard before, have we? We have not heard before that every soul goes through Madhurya. So that's the new thing for me here. And that makes me believe that maybe that phase of Madhubiyat is for everybody, but it's instantaneous in most and sustained in some others.
That's true. This is actually
Agreed.
anything.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Some souls will remain in a form of mazubs
Madhubiyat,
for much
yes,
longer in the physical body. Yeah.
correct. No,
Some may
without a
just pass
physical
through.
body. I
Yeah.
think without a physical body, because
Mazubs
it's
are physical bodies. Mazubs are also
physical body.
physical bodies. Yeah.
Okay.
But most of the people who pass through Mazubiyat drop their bodies very
Bodies
quickly.
immediately.
Very quickly. Yeah. That's what we
Perfect.
have
I think that makes
read
sense.
before. Yeah, we have read before. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Let's continue. The Ancient One is the next chapter. In the silent words of Meher Baba, this imp of a chicken or this imp of a child was the first to attain the goal of life, the Nirvikalpa Samadhi of infinite consciousness. Because this mischievous chicken was the first to break out of the egg of the universe, Brahmanda, that mischief monger was the first there at the goal, and he obtained divine knowledge first. All the mischievous chicken's adventures, all the universes, forms, kingdoms, planes, heavens, and worlds he experienced to get there were nothing. But because of this nothing, everything has to go through so much. Only then everything become conscious of itself. The Majzoub state is I am God. But when the first soul realized himself, he also instantaneously became aware of the entire illusory creation that he had left behind. The first soul declared at the moment of his realization, I am God and I am everyone and everything. His realization was forever unique because he was not only God conscious, but simultaneously attained all creation consciousness as well. The first soul simultaneously realized, I am infinite consciousness and I am infinite unconsciousness. Therefore, this child had to carry on his shoulders the infinite load of this dream of creation after his realization. The first soul, as the first pilgrim, crossed the kingdoms of the evolution of consciousness in 77 forms and went through a number of reincarnations and then crossed through the seven planes and heavens in involution very easily. His journey was quicker and easier than any soul after him because the first soul did not have many sanskaras. The first man collected only natural sanskaras which were necessary for experience, no unnatural, and those natural sanskaras in small numbers. When the universe first emerged, everything was natural in creation. And so the journey of the first soul through evolution and involution was totally natural. Since he was the first in creation, he could not be trapped in illusion with innumerable desires, cravings, wants, temptations, and needs, or anything unnatural or in excess. Consequently, his journey was very smooth. He, the ancient one, was the first stone. He smoothly passed into being the first metal, the first plant, the first worm, the first insect, the first reptile, the first fish, the first bird, the first animal, and completely naturally into the first man. As the first cross conscious human being, he crossed into the subtle world to become the first subtle conscious man and then naturally transcended into the mental world to become the first mental conscious man. As the first mind before the vast abyss between the sixth and seventh plane, he, totally independent of any help, transcended his own mind. And actually, during the transcendence, he annihilated his limited mind forever by realizing that the divine mind of God was his own. Thus, the first soul became until he became everything. And when he was everything, he became the first God conscious man. After gaining infinite consciousness, there was no further state of consciousness to attain because infinite consciousness contains everything. For the mischievous one, there existed no other journey to undergo. Yet his mischief pressed him down when the infinite load of everything on his head. I'll read that again. Yet his mischief pressed him down with the infinite load of everything on his head. The first soul became the ancient one when he made the descending journey back into illusion. The first soul regained all consciousness and all experience of illusion while retaining consciousness of himself as God during his direct descent. The regaining of creation consciousness, his experience of himself as everyone and everything, and at the same time, his experience of himself as God is that descent itself. While regaining creation consciousness during his descent, the first one found infinite universes in illusion. And in accordance with divine law, the law that arose with the original whim or lahar, took under his charge, the wing, the governing of all universes and worlds. Law was inherent in the nature of the original whim because the first chicken was so mischievous. Now his mischief came back around his neck. Everything and nothing hung around his neck. According to law in illusion, his mischief pressed him down with the infinite load on his head. So he took control of the government of all creation. The divine law bound him because of his own mischievous nature, so he had no choice but to take control of that very law itself. And so he did. When he did, he became the first perfect master or the first avatar, the only one governing creation. The law manifested at the moment when pity overcame him, when he pitied the other mischievous chickens that had followed him out from under the hen's wings. It was pity itself that bound him, and it ever binds him to come back into form, to come back down into the worlds of illusion. It was mischief itself that led Saitan away from his mother's wings forever, and it is pity that ever forces him back down. Oh, what devilish mischief and what divine pity! What mischief he had, and what pity he has. Age after age, cycle after cycle, the same ancient one comes back by coming down into male human form to be called Avatar, Buddha, Messiah, Rasul. And for the same purpose, for the sake of pity, he always declares the same one message: love me, love me. He was so mischievous that he began the creation, began a game of everything and nothing, began time that never ends. He, the mischievous child, wants our love. The ancient one is the first soul, Shiva or Adam, and that soul realized himself to be God, Paramatma or Father. That soul is known as the God man, who periodically returns every 700 to 1400 years from his blissful state of infinite consciousness, Satchidananda, to work in creation. His coming age after age is a boon for mankind and its salvation. But for him, it is an infinite suffering. It is he and he alone who gives a spiritual push at every stage and level of creation, from stone to human, from angel to pilgrim, from seeker to Sadguru, by becoming one with each and everything and everyone. The ancient ones becoming one and all is out of his infinite pity, and it is for the sake of pity that he suffers for all those who do not know who they are. Okay, I'll stop before continuing to Pakabila. Any questions? Any thoughts?
Not really, but only thing that I'm finding, the way it is written in small sentences, it's not a
Mhm.
big paragraph. Yes, Bhauji has broken it down to make it much simpler to understand in small bites.
Indeed,
That's what I
indeed,
love
indeed.
about this book. Yeah,
It's a gem of a book.
yeah,
Yeah, the gem of a book, no doubt about it.
yes.
I have one confusion. Let me bring it up. Okay. So I understand everything about the first soul and Baba and how he comes back again, the descent, all that is clear. But um, this paragraph is confusing, right? He was so mischievous that he began the creation, began a game of everything and nothing, began time that never ends. He, the mischievous child, wants our love. Now, he did not begin creation. He just happened to be the first soul that went through this. It is my understanding. Again, something to reflect upon. But we'll have to think. It's because it's not the soul that, the drop soul that created the whim, or the drop soul that initiated the whole of creation is not the avatar. The avatar is only one among the drop souls that made the journey first. Or am I wrong in that understanding? I'm sorry, I'm being a pest,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? It's a good question
Yeah,
to
yeah.
think a little more on and see what is the right answer. I don't have an answer. I mean, it's not clear in this chapter and in all the things we have read till now.
Mhm.
We will leave that for
Mhm.
thinking and
Yeah.
maybe continue. Next chapter is Baka Bila or Sahaja Samadhi. So you have Nirvana, which is Fana. Uh, Fana Phila is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And then after that, you have Baka Bila, which is Sahaja Samadhi. So let's continue. Perfection in man is complete after the attainment of the consciousness of God. If at the same time the consciousness of the gross, subtle, and mental worlds is integrated. After realization, if one only maintains the consciousness of God, he is Majzub or a Brahmi Bhut. That is, such a one is referred to as having no normal creation consciousness. However, when one regains normal creation consciousness after realization and equates being normal with being God, such a one is a Kutub or a Sadguru. When one is perfection personified, perfect master, he retains his divine consciousness of I am God and comes down and regains normal human consciousness, I am a man. On the strength of the divine experience of perfection, such a one declares, I am God and am in everyone and everything. If a Madsub were to speak, he would say, I am God, since to him nothing else exists. Because the Sadguru has normal consciousness, I am a man. For him, everything and everyone exists in illusion. And he helps to free both the worldly and the pilgrim from the mesh of illusion and take them to the goal. Very few human beings ever regain normal creation consciousness after attaining the consciousness of God. Those rare ones who do experience a divine abiding. This abiding is in God and is to Sufis Bakabila and is the Sahaja Samadhi state in Vedanta. Such rare ones live the life of God among other people and establish the life of God in the world as Kutub or Sadguru. Such a perfect human being who lives as God among mankind is called the consecrator of the soul. There always exist on the planet where involution occurs 56 God realized human beings, the Shiv Atmas. In brackets, for ages and ages, this planet has been Earth. Therefore, on this planet of ours, at this very moment, there are 56 human beings who have the consciousness of God. This number 56 is fixed for all time, and 5 is fixed as the number of perfect masters. But the numbers vary for the other types of Shiv Atmas. A number are Jivan Muktas or Azad e Mutlaks. Some are Brahmi Bhuts or Majzubs, and some are Paramahamsas or Salik Majzubs or Majzub Saliks. Only one is ever referred to as Avatar or Rasul. The five Sadgurus take control of the affairs of creation. They reign over the universes, planes, and heavens, guiding the movement of the ocean and every drop in the process of creation's evolution and involution through their universal work, consecration. One out of these five perfect masters represents the Godhead, Sahib-e-Zaman or Kutub-e-Irshad. This is the title of the Ancient One, the Godhead himself, Adi Purusha. The perfect master consecrates his soul to the universe while he works to help those souls in illusion to free themselves from the meshes, bindings of creation. It is the perfect master who consecrated his life to attaining the goal, who guides the drops in the ocean of nothing to the goal of realizing the ocean of everything. To the Sufis, he is the Kutub, pivot of the universe, whose movements move the axis of the wheels of imagination. In Vedanta, he is the Sadguru, the master of truth, truth incarnate, master of the game of illusion. It is he who directs the play of all personal and cosmic forces. Such an individual has become infinite and can control his infinity. There exists no difference in the divine knowledge, divine power, and divine bliss, Sat Chit Ananda, of the Avatar and Sadguru. Yet each perfect being has a different scope of work for the universe as a whole, from its beginning to its end in time. The Sadguru has a spiritual duty or responsibility to all creation for a fixed period of time until he drops his physical body. At that moment, his work ends. It is finished, though his inner work may continue for ages afterward, as does Hafiz's poetry, Kabir's songs, or Rumi's discourses. For him, there is not the least sanskaric connection. The Ancient One, the Avatar, the Buddha, the Messiah, because of his eternal responsibility, must incarnate as God man, age after age, cycle after cycle, countless times till the end of all time. Only he is eternally remembered as the perfect man. Thus, the name of Adam or Shiva is never forgotten, and the names he assumed in ages past are still remembered. Zarathustra, Ram, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad. It is through his universal work that the avatar consecrates his soul to the universe, to everything, to all souls. Okay, next is the Turyavastha. Again, a pause, quick discussion.
What is the meaning of consecrate?
So it's
can you
just another word. Yeah, so I think he's using that word. We're seeing it in Baba literature for the first time. But I think that my understanding of the use of the word is consecration is equal to universal work, basically spiritual work to push souls further up from where they are. So that's clearly mentioned in the second instance of the use of the word consecration through their universal work right here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, um, I have one doubt again. So now it says, so what's the relationship between Adam or Shiva and the avatar? So Adam or Shiva is just the first soul, or is he the avatar? Because we have not seen references to Adam before, and the biblical reference and even the Islamic reference to Adam is the first human soul. So if we, for a moment, assume that the first soul that took the human form is Adam, is that the first soul that also made it? I believe not, but then I'm not sure.
Yeah, we need Kama.
We are missing him. Yeah, so we have two questions for him already. I will send him a note. I'll send him a note to on text, and then maybe he can listen to this video or read the chapters and then give his inputs. He may have
Yeah.
a ready answer, or at least he can research, and so can we, and then get to the bottom of it. Okay, Turiya Avastha. Let's continue. There are different divine states that a God realized being must pass through while descending back into creation. From the beyond of the seventh plane, which is the Vigyan Bhumika. On the seventh plane, between the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is infinite consciousness, and Sahaja Samadhi, God consciousness plus creation consciousness, is the state of Turiya Avastha. In Turiya Avastha, in Sufism, Turiya Avastha is the state between Fanafila, divine annihilation, and Bakabila, divine abiding, called Fana Ma al Baka. This state in mystical terms is called the Divine Junction, the junction between reality, which is God, and illusion, which is creation. The junction between God's consciousness, I am infinite, and living God's life, I am everyone and everything, is the junction. Let me read this line again. The state in mystical terms is called the divine junction, the junction between reality, God, and illusion, creation. The junction between God's consciousness, I am infinite, and living God's life, I am everyone and everything. It is the junction the God realized being must pass before attaining perfect masterhood, Sadguruhood, or Kutubiyat. If a God realized being who stops at this divine junction while descending back into creation is experiencing Turiya Avastha, he is called the Jivan Mukta, meaning the liberated incarnate. In Sufi terms, he is called the Azad-e-Mutlaq. The Jivan Mukta at times experiences Sahaj Samadhi, I am God and I am everyone and everything. But because he has no spiritual duty to creation as a whole, his consciousness in relation to creation varies. At times, a Jivan Mukta may experience only Nirvikalpa Samadhi, I am God, and have no conscious experience of creation. At other times, he may experience Sahaj Samadhi as he moves freely through the inner planes and gross world. This means that at times, the Jivan Mukta, who is completely liberated from any sanskaric connections, remains immersed in divine consciousness. I am God. And at other times, along with divine consciousness, he also has normal creation consciousness. The Jivan Mukta's consciousness of creation may be some aspect of the gross, subtle, or mental worlds, or every aspect of these three worlds. However, because he has no spiritual duty to creation, he does not work for everyone and everything. If one does no universal work, one will re immerse in the divine and only experience I am God, thus losing consciousness of everyone and everything. The Jivan Mukta could be conscious of a mental plane, a subtle plane, or a part of the world where he lives, while always retaining consciousness of I am God. But he will not reveal that he is God personified. Consequently, the individual that comes into his contact receives indirect and not direct spiritual benefit. The Jivan Mukta never does inner work for creation as a whole, except that each has the duty to give one soul God realization and make that one like himself in Turiyavastha. Jivan Muktas are numbered among the 56 Atmas, but not one is a member of the 7,000 member spiritual hierarchy. They are so free that they never work. The liberated ones come and go, back and forth, to and fro, from the God state into the different states of creation at will. They are the free spirit of God in creation, but independent of it. The first soul did not experience being a Jivan Mukta. He instantaneously passed through Turyavastha into Kutubiyat during his realization in the beginning. Unlike the Jivan Mukta, the avatar and Sadgurus always retain both God consciousness, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and creation consciousness, Sahaj Samadhi, simultaneously. The Sadgurus, though, lose connection with creation at the moment they drop the physical body. The avatar never loses connection after he drops the body, but maintains his connection with all creation through the five Sadgurus living. The difference among God realized human beings lies not in their infinite consciousness as God, but in their relation to the creation as a whole. There are different states of perfection, and the perfect being is perfection in action. Perfection lies in duty, in mastery, in authority. The Majzub or Brahmibhut or Paramahamsa has no duty to anyone and perfects no one. The Jivan Mukta or Azad-e-Mutlaq has no universal duty but has duty to perfect one soul. The Sadguru or Kutub has universal duty and fulfills it. He has a spiritual duty to all creation in general, but has a chosen duty to perfect a circle of 14 people in and is of direct and indirect benefit to millions. The avatar or Rasul has chosen duty to all creation. He gives a chosen spiritual push to everyone and everything and has a special duty to perfect, realize 122 people. Since the avatar has a chosen duty to everyone, he alone is a direct benefit to millions and millions. He has the authority to give realization to anyone if he so wishes. He has the sole authority to give his chosen push from any level to the level of the seventh plane to anyone at any moment. The Sadgurus bestow realization according to the divine plan chosen by the avatar. So, it is the avatar who chooses who will become God realized. It is for the avatar's own special circle and lovers and devotees that he himself bestows realization or mukti, liberation. All other souls receive realization or mukti from the hands of the Sadgurus. Mukti occurs at the moment of death. At realization, one retains the human body and continues to live. The real meaning of the divine plan is that particular moment of a Jivatma's realization. This divine plan was laid out by the first soul when he came down as the first avatar. It was the mischievous chicken, after he became God realized and instantaneously saw all other chickens that had followed him, that laid out this plan from beginning to end. It is this plan that the Sadgurus execute in the timing of each soul's realization or liberation. After realization, some persons may live only for a few days. Most humans drop the body after 3 days. Some live a few weeks, a few months, a few years, or many years. Some human beings are God realized at a young age. Dhyaneshwar was 8, the youngest Sadguru ever, but only lived to 18. Or at a mature age, or at a very old age. Hazrat Baba Jan was in her 70s and lived to be 141. When one of the 5 Sadgurus or Kutubs drops the body, another God realized human immediately takes his place and lives from then on as a perfect master. No matter whether that person selected had existed before as a circle member, on the plains as gross conscious, or as a Jivan Mukta or Matsu. During the advent of the Ancient One and during an avataric age, there are 5 Sadgurus and 51 God realized humans, plus the avatar who is always the same one, the mischievous chicken himself who takes over and reigns as the king of the universe, his egg. Okay, so that draws us to the end of this chapter. This is also a very, very uh, profound chapter, and I think there's a lot covered here. And I think internalizing this will help your slides and your document, Ashok. I'm sure you already realize that. And maybe there is adjustments that we can do basis what we are learning here. Any questions on this? Divine Junction.
Talking about some presentation. Sorry, I missed that. What were you
No,
saying?
no, I said your presentation on the involution journey can get a lot of input from this chapter. So,
Oh, definitely, absolutely. Thank you.
because the chapter starts with the name Turyavastha, but then it covers in it, after defining Turyavastha, a lot of other types of souls and other types of 56 God realized souls and their differences very beautifully. So
Yes,
this can be a good reference and input to the slide and document that you've already worked on.
yes, correct. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So next chapter, the endless end. Here ends the story of the mischievous chicken, the ancient one who comes again and again. But this story does not end for us. Every individual must complete the same journey. Every individual must write the same story. Every soul must journey the same 14 adventures, and everyone journeys in his own unique way toward realizing self. In reality, this story never began, so it will never end. This is the story of the beginningless beginning to the endless end. The meaning of the beginningless beginning is that God has no beginning. God is eternal, ever existing in reality, but illusion does have a beginning, and because of the mischief of that chicken, all of creation has come into being. The beginningless soul, by becoming an individual, has a beginning as an embodied drop, the Jivatma, and journeys through evolution, reincarnation, and involution in illusion to attain realization. That which has a beginning must have an end. For this reason, after the realization of God in human form, the story of illusion comes to its end, the endless end. The soul ever lives, its existence is everlasting, there is never an end to it. That endless end is the story of the other drops, the countless stories of each mischievous chicken. That story is the story of illusion, and it ends for each individual drop in finding its real self, the ocean. Enmeshed in the beginningless beginning, we who have been everything have been adventuring, and after innumerable and unimaginable ages, we have reached the human form. The adventure is still in dream, illusion, and still we know that it is a dream and think and feel and act as if it is real. Ultimately, we have to awaken from this dream, and we can only do that if we love God so much that we forget our own being. The only remedy for finding an end to this beginning, the only remedy to our sleeping and dreaming is real love. Such love can awaken one. Such love brings back the mischievous chicken to tell us his story, which tells us our future. Real love will make us realize the story which he himself has told. The universe is the game of everything and nothing. And in the infinite nothing of this nothingness, we remain entrapped. This play of everything and nothing is the first soul's Leela, as he is so mischievous that he only loves to play, and none knows how he plays his game until who he is has been realized. The limitation of imagination, the prison of creation, is the play of the beloved child who became our beloved father and who keeps playing to gradually give God realization to everyone. Though we suffer in this prison of body, energy, and mind continuously, none could bear it unless he came back again and again. And he does, because the mischievous one is filled with love and pity. And he gives a little love and pity to everyone of his little brothers and sisters, so we can bear being without him when he is not in form. In order to experience everything, all of nothing must be experienced. And that is why he has kept this play of everything and nothing. The shadows of the nothing are the gross, subtle, and mental worlds. They have to be experienced until ultimately the real nothing is experienced, nirvana. Then only in the infinite nothing the everything is experienced as real, Nirvikalpa. Thus, this divine game of nothing and everything is necessary and will continue. And the mischief monger will have to incarnate at the appointed age every time as the avatar. Thus, he has come in this age to make us realize that nothing is necessary to experience the everything. May we, who have bowed to his feet for endless ages and cycles, ever remain bowed at the feet of the Ancient One and call on his name, calling his name whenever he, the Nameless One, returns. That mischievous chicken who calls himself Huma, the phoenix, or that mischievous child who became the father, ever declares, I have no name, I am he, the only one. But for the sake of pity, you may call me by my name. The nameless one, the formless one, keeps on playing the game of everything and nothing and assumes a form and name to be one of us. None loves the game more than he because it is all his mischief. It is Meher Baba who keeps up the game of the worlds of creation. His dream, only for that one moment, when in an instant he has planned to awaken one of us. At Meher Baba's feet, I remain bowed, for he is no one else but the same ancient one who has come to awaken. It is only he to whom mankind can remain bowed. It is only he that mankind can worship. For that purpose, he keeps playing this game that some of us will awaken. So that's the end of the mischievous chicken chapter. We are a little ahead of time. If you want to stop here, we could, or we could read the next book or the next part, which is called Two Kings. I think we will start reading Two Kings. We have more than 10 minutes, so let's start that.
Okay.
Any questions or thoughts on the mischievous chicken itself before we continue? The whole concept of using this analogy of the chicken, the hen, and the brood of chicks, and one of them is such a. I mean, I did not understand it before. I have heard it, and obviously, this is a very detailed explanation of it. I think more we think about it, we may understand more and more. But it's beautiful.
Yes, yes. So we'll know the meaning of when we wear a mischievous chicken T-shirt next
Yes,
time.
yes.
So we thought it
You
was
have
just a
one?
picture. I had one. Currently, no. I'll have to buy one.
Yeah, I want to buy one too. I bought one for my son. He used it for a while, but I should get one now after this. Yeah.
Baba did it when he was in Andhra visit.
Oh, was it during the Andhra?
1953. 1953, Baba went to Andhra. And in somebody's house, in a notebook, he drew it. Some child was there. In his notebook, he drew this picture. That's the story.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from Ashok? Sunil has been rather quiet. He's absorbing as usual. And if he doesn't have questions, it means he's absorbed fully well. Sunil?
Yes. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Sunil.
Yes.
So Neil has gone into trance.
Looks like.
Turyavastha.
Yeah, Turyavastha, yes.
Jai Baba. So let's continue. So this is the part 2 of the book, which is the two kings. Before the beginningless beginning, there was nothing. And there were two kings and one queen. Before there was nothing. The first was the all-pervading king named Sarvasva. And the second was all-knowing king named Sarvagya. King Sarvasva is the infinite unconsciousness from which the universes evolved and the subtle and mental worlds involved. King Sarvagya is the infinite consciousness, the state of God in the beyond. King Sarvasva is the unconscious God, and King Sarvagya is the conscious God. The name of the queen was Vaikuntha, meaning in Sanskrit, the place where God takes rest and sleeps. Vaikuntha is the universal mother or Eve, who was original Maya, from whose body, womb, all mind, energy, and matter issued forth. Before the beginning, Sarvasva, the all-pervading king, used to sleep for 12 months at a time. And while he slept, the all-knowing Sarvagya was awake. Then, after 12 months, the all-knowing Sarvagya would sleep, and the all-pervading Sarvasva will remain awake for 12 months. During these 12-month cycles, the queen Vaikuntha would go to that king remaining awake and stay with him for 7 hours. Occasionally, both kings would be awake at the same time. At that time, the queen would go to Sarvasva for 7 hours and then to Sarvagya for 7 hours. Thus, ages and ages, cycles and cycles passed by, and Vaikuntha began to feel restless and dissatisfied. Finally, after some incalculable period, she was completely miserable because she, the queen, had no child. So one day, Vaikuntha went to the all-knowing King Sarvagya and wept before him, crying out, "You, Sarvagya, are all-knowing, then surely you know how unhappy I am. I long for a child, yet I am barren and have none. Please, all-knowing one, give one child to me." Sarvagya, the knower of all, answered her lovingly, "Dear queen, it is not for me to give children, so in that way I cannot help you. But I can give you the knowledge of how to get a child. If you act on my advice, you will have not only one, but 7 of what you wish for." The queen eagerly agreed to follow his advice. So Sarvagya began to tell Vaikuntha, "When Sarvasva, the all-pervading, is asleep, go and disturb him. Try to awaken him. Though Sarvasva is in the deepest sound sleep, he will slowly awaken because of you. But at the moment he awakens, he will be incredibly angry. You must not be frightened even if he spews fire. If at that time you dance and sing before him and try your best to give him pleasure, then he will become pacified and calm. Sarvasva will then desire you, Vaikuntha, and take you as his wife. Once his desire is satisfied, he will desire you again and again, and after every 700,000 years, you will have one child, until 7 children are born from you." Vaikuntha understood well the meaning of Sarvagya's words. She could feel the seductive powers stirring within her bosom. Sarvagya then smiled at Vaikuntha and continued, "But the names of your 7 children I shall give. The first child shall be named Brahmanda, seed of the universe. The second child shall be named Prana, the subtle realm. The third child shall be called Chaya, shadow. The fourth child shall be called Kaya, form. The fifth child shall be called Maya, power or the subtle. The sixth child shall be called Kailasha, mental realm. The seventh child shall be called Mukti, liberation. Until you have given birth to all 7 children, you, Vaikuntha, must not come back to me. But after the 7th child, Mukti, is born, leave the all-pervading Sarvasva and come back. Then I, Sarvagya, will absorb you within myself forever." Hearing what knowledge itself had declared, the queen felt very happy and went to Sarvasva to seduce him. As she had been wisely advised, she disturbed him. She shook and awoke Sarvasva from his deep sleep. This indeed angered him, and as Sarvasva awakened, great flames shot from his mouth. Though great fire exploded from Sarvasva's eyes and mouth, the queen smiled and was not afraid. Vaikuntha began to dance and sing in a most enchanting and seductive manner until Sarvasva was pacified. Then he began to desire her. So, after some time, fully enchanted by her beauty and completely seduced by her charm, Sarvasva lay with Vaikuntha and forgot himself in her bosom. And they lived together as king and queen, as husband and wife, for 4,900,000 years, having 7 children over ages and cycles, naming each child as Sarvagya had wished. After bearing the 7th child, Mukti, Vaikuntha left the all-pervading Sarvasva and went to Sarvagya, who absorbed her within himself forever as he had promised. The all-pervading king, infinite unconsciousness, the all-knowing king, infinite consciousness, and the queen, the nothing, original Maya, were all together in the beginning. From the advice, this knowledge of Sarvagya and the relationship between Sarvasva and Vaikuntha spanned creation in 7 stages through the 7 children. In that very beginning, the nothing existed with the 2 kings in the sleeping ocean, the beyond beyond. Though the nothing was only nothing, the shadow she had 7 latent powers: lust, anger, greed, pride, selfishness, hatred, and jealousy. The all-pervading king, infinite unconsciousness, was asleep in the beginningless beginning, but in the beginning, after the whim of desire, he was slowly awakening out of that ocean. At that time, the all-knowing king, infinite consciousness, was also slowly awakening out of that ocean, and simultaneously, nothing was going from one king to another with her 7 powers. I think we are out of time, and I have a hard stop because I have to head out somewhere. So I'm going to stop here. But just as a note, I think we should read this again because this is setting the tone for this part, which is the 2 kings. So let's start from here again in the next reading. Is my suggestion. And anything else from anybody before we can quickly wrap up?
Yeah, you're right. Agreed, Karthik.
Read again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll wrap up. Have a great week ahead, and let's catch up again next week. Meanwhile, if there are any questions, I mean, as I said, I'll write those 2 questions up and send it to